Hello, 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 and good morning, everybody. So I popped in a little bit early because I know a lot of you have seen the the Brian Koberger thing last night. So we're set to start here in about 20 minutes, you guys. I do have it up, so when it does start, I can pop right over to it. Okay, let's see who's in here. Juror 11. Good morning. Juror 11 says, who watched the BK hearing last night? Yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy. Good morning, Vera. Good morning, Dawn. Taylor was just, no kidding. Good afternoon, Git. Good to see you. Oh, Santa got heated, all right. And so did that good old doctor there that did the survey. And it's like, yet again, when they had that doctor on the stand, and Bill Thompson was cross-examining him. Like, Thompson made some good arguments, and it's like he didn't back down from this good old doctor, and this good old doctor just trying to like tell them how things should happen, and well, these are all things that could be brought up in voir dire. And Bill Thompson jumped in and he said, oh no, it can't. He says, hey, when have you ever done a voir dire as a lawyer? Lori, good morning. Good morning. Things just don't add up. Yeah. Pinky, good morning. And it was weird because Bill Thompson made really, really, really good arguments. And this guy, this doctor, even said, I don't care. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. I don't care about things getting out. I don't care. And it was like, what? And the judge kind of caught it. You know what I mean? So then after Anne had him on and questioned him, and then Bill Thompson, then Anne had the final say, and then their little closing argument thing, and blah blah blah. Bill Thompson made good headway, and I believe Judge was going to rule on the prosecution side. And then when the judge started questioning the doctor, he got nasty with the friggin' judge, and the judge took it like a champ, like took it right up the butt. This guy, this doctor, sat in that chair, in the witness chair, and basically told the judge right off, I'm not going to be accused of this, and I'm not going to be accused of that, and blah, blah, blah. He said that he asked the questions based on what he's seen in the papers, in the media, and in the probable cause affidavit. Well, even if it's in the probable cause affidavit, neither side is allowed to talk about the case, period. Right? And this guy, like, he went off on the judge, and the judge backed down. It's like, who's running? Ann Taylor and her team are running this courtroom. That's what I see. Well, he says, and at the beginning, he said the judge had asked him, well, can you do the survey in other counties and change the questions? Nope, can't do it. If I can't do this survey the exact way I did it in Moscow, then I ain't doing the surveys. So then, but when the judge started questioning him, he says, well, can you change anything? Well, I shouldn't, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, if you just changed this question, well, I'll see if I can just change that question, but it should remain the same. And this is why, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God. Nana, good morning. Sybil, good morning. Only I always have interruptions because I've got so much to do. And like I said, I will bring this to you guys, but I can't be chit-chatting and chat and like I will on and off because I've got to get my income tax done by the 15th. I got 4 more days. I got 4 more days. And I've got probably about 3 weeks worth of work to do on it. Oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah, it was a shit show. So he's taken it under advisement. He's going to give them, he's moved the hearing out now for the change of venue to the end of June because the judge says, well, I'll give you an extra 2 weeks because you've lost 2 weeks on your survey thing, right? Well, now it's the end of June. So that's April, May, all of June. They pushed it out 2.5 months instead of 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It's just like they're ruling the court. I miss you too. So we're going to see how it goes today, you guys. And like I said yesterday, if I don't got a lot of interest in it, it's just not worth me covering this. To sit here for 12 hours, like I've been here since 8 o'clock this morning, sit here 10 hours, you know, it's just not worth it. And I've got to put everything in my life on hold, plus try and do everything else. Like we didn't see a lot of interest in this case yesterday. I think the most we had was like 40 people, 30, maybe 30 people. Sometimes we break down to 10. I think people pop in, watch it for a little bit, and it's boring. And I'm still saying today, Rob Wood is not on his game. The way this is moving along, it's like he's not prepared. Now, I don't know. I can tell by his voice that he's sick. Like, I'm getting sick again. Like with this, one day we had a snowstorm. 2 days later, it was 22 degrees outside. You know what I mean? The constant change, the allergies. My rose bushes are blooming, not blooming, but what do you call that? Budding. My tulips came up, and then we've gotten 2 snowstorms since because it gets really, really nice, like 72 degrees out for a couple days. And then we get a snowstorm, and then we got that ice storm. You know what I mean? It's been crazy. Isabel, hello, hello, my dear. So I think I'm getting sick again because I can feel it. But I think he's caught a bad cold or something. He's not up to par. And just like not preparing the backstory, I'm going to put it in easy terms for everybody to understand. Like when you get a witness on the stand, you ask them their name, get them to spell it, give their credentials, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And when you're asking questions, okay, when you went to the property where the children were found, what did you see? You know what I mean? And it's like you're supposed to, and he knows this, like he's not stupid. John Pryor would jump up, well, whose property? Chad Daybell's property. Well, which property? Which property? What's the address? Like he wasn't giving the specifics and getting those specifics out of the witness before jumping onto that question. Because there's questions that were being asked that it could have happened at Lori's, it could have happened at Alex's, it could have happened at Chad's, it could have happened out in the middle of nowhere. Like he wasn't on his game at all. You could tell the witness was getting a little upset, and so was John Pryor. And this is, like I said, Rob Wood is not a stupid man, but he was so off his game yesterday. and questions that were being asked, I feel were, I don't want to say not relevant, but almost like non-productive. You know what I mean? And he would jump from one thing to another and then jump back to the first thing he was talking about. Like he was just all over the place. So let's hope he's feeling better today and this goes smoother than what it did. Like it should be rolling along. Like one thing should lead right into another, and it's not. And it's making it look like he's not prepared at all. Because that's why John Pryor kept objecting yesterday. Foundation questions weren't being asked before the main question. So you had no foundation for that question. If you guys can follow what I'm saying. So let's hope today is better. Like hand it off to somebody else. Like give it to one of the other prosecutors there to ask the questions if you're not up to par. And yeah, John was on his game. There's Sybil, yeah, going in circles. And John was on his game. And if you give John, and I know nobody likes John Pryor. John Pryor, he seems like a whiner, this and that, and he does a lot of whining. He's setting himself up for this appeal. Don't forget, this is a death penalty. It's automatically appealed anyway if he's found guilty. But thank you, Sybil. If he finds a tiny little crack, he's going to open that up like an earthquake. Okay, he's going to jump all over it. And he's doing his job. He's doing his job, you guys. And as we seen yesterday, he's pinning it on Lori and Alex. And I knew that was going to happen. Go back to one of my very first readings. I forget what it was called. Who's going to turn or something like that. It was way, way back 4 years ago. You'd have to go under my video tab for that one. All my new stuff, like from about 1.5 years ago and on, is under the live tab. All my older stuff is under the video tab. If you go to the video tab and search back to some of my very first readings on who's going to turn on who, it was there. It was there. And Lori's like in La La Land somewhere thinking that, they're going to be basking in Hawaii next year, Isabel says, I hope Lori was listening just because I'm petty. I don't know if they get internet there. I don't know. Unless she's got somebody that's going to be filling her in. I don't know. So while we wait, let me just check and make sure. Okay, I'm going to put it up just so it's up on screen, you guys. So when it starts, whoops, what did I just do? How about this? There we go. So once it starts, I will put it full screen, but I'll have it up. I did not want to do that. Hang on a sec, you guys. Okay. Oops, what am I doing? Okay, present, share. Sorry, you guys, I just had to do this a little different. There we go. Well, I gotta change things around here. I don't know how I did it yesterday. There we go. Okay. So as soon as that starts, we will jump over to it. And I will mute myself and make it full screen. Guys, make sure you smash that like button, please. So just pop out of chat, go smash that like button, let people know that we're live. When you come back in, make sure you have to chat, make sure you've got live chat selected at the top of your chat box. I don't know, but he talked on each one of those marriages, right, that Lori had, and how Chad was, all he had, the worst that he ever had involvement with the law was a speeding ticket. And look at Lori's done up to that point. Her brother shot her husband and killed him and all this stuff, right? And they're saying that they tried to link Chad to the killing of Charles Vallow, but they couldn't. So that's Lori on her own. So that's what they're going to try and do. Chad was an angel until he met Lori. But Chad was the one that said that the kids had gone dark, that Tammy had gone dark, that this one's gone dark, that one's gone dark. So, I mean, he's doing the right thing by going that way, for sure. And this is why he wanted the trials severed. So the opening statements, ironically, were on the exact same day. Lori Vallows' opening statements in her case were on April 10th, and Chad Daybell's were on April 10th. The Koberger thing last night was a nightmare. I'm going to do an update tomorrow. At some point, I'm going to go live, probably in the afternoon. Regarding, there's a lot of things that are happening in the Sebastian Rogers case and Madeline Soto case. So I want to go over those two cases tomorrow. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. There's no court. 14 in here, only 24 likes. Smash that like button, please. Yes, Chad's, I think there was 3 of the 5 that are testifying. Let me just get this. So 3 of his kids are going to apparently testify. So that's why they're not in court. I guess the other 2 don't believe them. So maybe the prosecution should call them. Hello, teen. Charissa. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. At least 3 of them are. The other 2, I don't know. Complete madness. Complete madness. So yeah, so tomorrow afternoon sometime, I'll touch on the Madeline Soto stuff, what's going on there, and also all these things that have been happening with the Sebastian Rogers case. we're going to be going over all that too. Okay, I'm just trying to get things set up here, you guys, so please bear with me. I'm trying to get all my... If I can get... Oh, gosh. If I can get most of this one pile I've got is the worst. The first part of what I'm doing here, you're talking about my taxes. That's why I'm not so chatty in chat. I've only got till Monday. It has to be in there by Monday. Hello, Norma. Good morning. So once the trial starts, I just mute myself and I dig into my taxes. If I can get what I've got done on my desk right now, if I can get that done today, I'm sitting good. I think between tomorrow, what I can do tomorrow, and Saturday, because I can't file on Sunday. The filing portal isn't open on Sunday. So I have actually until Saturday to get this done. Because it has to be there for Monday at midnight. So Sunday night at midnight, but you can't file on Sundays. The portal's not open on Sundays, so I have to file it on Saturday before midnight. So I'm hoping to get it done. If not, I'm going to be slapped with a penalty. Oh well. What's this? I don't know what I just clicked there. What's this? Okay. That should be good. So once it starts, you guys, I need you to tell me in the chat that you can hear it, because I did adjust the settings. And I know the court audio sucks. Like, so put in some earbuds or crank up your volume. Everybody's complaining about the volume and the video. Like, we can't see anything they're showing on screen. Nothing. They got the camera way too far back. So we can't follow along there. We can't even see. They just look like blue neon blobs. Good morning, Marie. So, do you think they're going to start on time today, you guys? Of course not. They've got like 2 minutes. Yep, we've seen the videos. There was videos of it because people were there videotaping it. And he was sitting in his car in his, I think, daughter's driveway or whatever. The cop was watching him. He stated that yesterday. And I think they got him before he took off. Because you see him right there. They're arresting him on the side of the road where the cop said that he went. So I don't know. So maybe he did take off. It's almost like I'm so interested in this case. You could be very true, Vera, because yesterday I became so disinterested in the case, and I have been waiting for this. Okay. If I'm getting disinterested, I can just imagine the jury, right? The jury are people just like you and me. So if something is bothering us, something's bothering them. You know what I mean? And if this is the way things are going to continue, like, I don't feel Rob Wood is getting the evidence out in the most effective manner. I really don't. Like I said, yesterday it was like a circus in there. He was off his game. I do think he's not well. I think he's sick with something, a bad cold, something. You can tell in his voice. Um, he was just off, not laying foundations. Like, come on, Rob, you're better than this. And if this is the way this trial is going to go, they may not get the death penalty. They may not even get a guilty verdict at this point. Yeah, I got lost in chapter 6. Hey, Mitch, good morning. Mama, sir, good morning. I'm not so sure it's Pryor that's holding things up, you guys. Seriously. And I don't like him. I think Chad Daybell is guilty of sin, but I'm kind of feeling a little bit sorry for John Pryor right now. He shouldn't have to make all these objections. Rob Wood should know better, especially when he's not laying foundations before asking questions. You know what I mean? Rob Wood's better than that. Like I said, Rob Wood is off his game. And if John Pryor didn't object to what was going on, he wouldn't be doing his job. Like, that would automatically be ineffective counsel. And every time he objects, he's setting up his appeal. Hello, Roma. Good morning. Yes, Sybil, thank you. Yeah, he's acting like he's a rookie. Well, Monster says, I love that you have background for all this. Yeah, I worked in criminal law over 30 years, you guys. I'm retarded now. I mean, retired. But here I am still jumping into it. It's in your blood. You either, like, you can't just jump into a lot of different jobs and just be made for it. You know what I mean? Your blood, sweat, tears, everything you have has to be in this, or you ain't going to be good at it. And I'm telling you, the first couple of years, I was really questioning if this was for me. Because when I first started, I was in family law and I was ready to quit. And one of the lawyers, one of the law firm that I was working for, they had family lawyers and criminal. And one of the other criminal lawyers came to me and said, no, I'm too particular with detail to give this up. So I went back to school and I went for criminal law. So I got my paralegal and I did an extra year because I wanted to, I didn't want to jump into this not understanding a lot of things on the criminal aspect side. But family law, I thought, because of all the stuff I'd been through when I was younger and this and that I'd be good at it and I'd be understanding. And no, because of what I went through, it's very hard in family law because you're dealing with kids. Okay. Yes, there's divorce and this and that and whatever. But when it came to child custody and stuff like that, the things that you heard and you seen, it was just like, oh, this is a no-go. Like, I don't even want to represent the client, let alone even be part of this case, because they're both to blame for what's going on with these kids. And it was just the heartache, and I got a lot of flashbacks because I came from a very abusive home and one of the toughest upbringings you could have. I will never get into that upbringing, but I had one of the hardest upbringings that anybody could ever have. And we were ruled with an iron fist. Respect was number one. Like, anyway. Kids and animals, yeah, I can't handle. Juror 11. Absolutely. So it still hasn't started yet, you guys. And they're 5 minutes late, as usual. Let me just go see over here. Give me a second, you guys. Okay, I don't know why it didn't refresh. But it hasn't started yet. Okay, let me make it big for you guys. Well, it's all good, Marie. It made me who I am, right? I am not ready for day 2. If it's a repeat of yesterday, you guys, this will be the last day I cover it. There may be days that I do cover it. If there's certain things that are going to be talked about, I'll have to keep my eye on it. But I mean, if we don't got a lot of people in here watching it, then it's going to be the last day I cover it because we're just not getting the interest in it. And it's just to put this much time aside for this one thing and have everything else on hold. It's just not worth it, you guys. I hear you, Roma. Well, yeah, because I'm putting everything else on hold. You know what I mean? I could be doing other things that you guys want to know about. Oh, thank you, Mom Ozer. Juror 11. Yes, I see people moving around, but as you can see, yet again, the prosecution is not here. And neither is John Pryor. It looks like they've moved the camera up a bit. For the witness. So maybe we will be able to see something. But see this blue thing that's on the screen? That's all we see. When they put up photos or whatever, that's all we see is that blue screen. Dawn, thank you so much. That helps. That helps to keep the channel going, and it helps for me to be bringing this to you, you guys. So I thank you so much. Missy, good morning, Willow. Stopped in to listen for a bit. Thank you for covering this. We understand you're amazing and appreciate you. Thank you, Missy. Okay, so they're back. Rob Wood is now there. The prosecution's now there. John Pryor's now there. He's talking to Chad. The judge still is not in. I think it's just the camera angle, Mum Ozer. Okay, put one in the chat if you can hear sound, please.
We could have the jury trial. Yes, no. He can see it.
Okay, good. You guys can all hear it? Good. Okay, I'm going to mute. Thank you again, Dawn, for your super sticker. I appreciate it.
All rise.
The jury is present and accounted for.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Please be seated. All right, good morning, everyone. We're back on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad-Daybell. This is the second day of introduction of evidence in the state's case in chief. I'll note the state is here and present. Mr. Wood was conducting examination of a witness. Mr. Wood, is the state ready to proceed this morning?
Yes, sir.
I'll also note the defense is present, along with counsel and the defendant. The court also notes the jurors are all properly seated and all 18 jurors have returned. The court's also confirmed that the jurors each completed their affirmation this morning regarding not looking into the case during the break. And so we appreciate you following that admonishment as well. One other matter I just wanted to bring up before we got started with additional evidence is the court's live streaming this hearing in this trial. There is a I heard there were some complaints that the audio maybe wasn't coming through very well on that. I'd ask the attorneys if they could to talk right into the mics. Of course, that helps as well with our court reporter making the record. In addition, the live stream comes directly through the court's official channel. That can be somewhat difficult to find if you go to the Idaho Supreme Court website. However, there is a website on Ada County about this trial. And if you just Google the term Ada County Daybell trial, there's an easy link to find for the court's official live stream. And that's the most direct signal. So for those that are observing the trial online, if you're having any issues with audio or quality of the signal, perhaps you could go to that direct signal, which is the best source of the live stream proceeding. So with that, then we had Detective Hermosillo was on the stand yesterday, and I believe you're continuing direct examination. Is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll have the witness recalled then if you're ready to proceed with additional testimony.
Thank you.
All right, Detective Hermosillo was sworn in yesterday. I'll remind you, you are still under oath for your testimony today. And to confirm, not being the state's case agent, I just want to confirm that you didn't review any, well, you're the first witness, so we don't need to do that on this particular witness. So, Mr. Wood, if you'd like to just inquire on further direct, you can do that at this time.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Detective. Detective, when we finished off yesterday, we were discussing what you had found or what you had observed at a burial site, and just for purposes of the jury, what site were you at when you found the body you were speaking of yesterday?
We were at the site that we deemed JJ's burial site.
And where, Your Honor, if I could be given State's Exhibit 10A. And if I may publish that?
Yes, it's admitted, correct?
Yes.
So,
Detective, if you could, just for purposes of clarification with a pointer, point out the location you were speaking of.
It's the burial site on the other side of this pond, just underneath this tree.
Okay. Now, you call it a pond, when you were out there on June 9th, was there water in it?
No, there wasn't.
And again, just to clarify, when we had left off your testimony yesterday, is it correct that you had, what you observed was what appeared to be a small body wrapped up in a black plastic bag?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibits 10B through 10M. Detective, can you review those exhibits and let me know when you got a chance to? Detective, do you recognize state's exhibits 10B through 10M?
Yes.
What do they purport to be?
Photographs, there's a photograph of the west side of the defendant Daybell's residence. And photographs of the backyard.
And do you know when these photographs were taken?
On June 9th, 2020.
Were you the photographer?
No,
But you were on the property that day.
that's correct.
And were you able to observe each of the areas that are photographed in these exhibits?
Yes,
You saw them with your own eyes.
yes,
And are these true and accurate representations of what you observed on June 9th, 2020?
yes.
Your Honor, I move for admission of state's exhibits 10B through 10M.
Any objection?
Judge, just to,
Into the microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
I'm sorry, Judge. Judge, just one here on 10B if I could. Otherwise, I'm fine with the rest of the exhibits.
Okay, so let's do that then. So 10C through 10M have been offered or admitted, and Mr. Pryor, you can board there on 10B.
And officer, you're looking at 10B, is that right?
Yes,
For now.
yes,
And the vehicle that's parked in 10B, is that the vehicle that was, the position of the vehicle at the time that you testified about Mr. Daybell?
that's not the vehicle that Mr. Daybell was in. That one.
Do you know what vehicle that is?
The driveway looks like a Subaru.
Okay, is that the driveway that you're making reference to?
That's correct.
So in other words, somebody else's vehicle is there. We don't know whose vehicle that is,
It's not the one that Mr. Daybell was in.
but you don't know whose vehicle that is.
I don't know whose vehicle that is.
You don't know when the vehicle was put there.
No, sir.
You don't know who the owner of the vehicle is.
That's correct.
I would object, Judge, on foundation.
All right, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective. So you don't know whose vehicle that is, correct?
Correct.
But you were still there that day. Okay. Do you recognize this as Mr. Daybell's residence?
Yes, I do.
And this is a true and accurate representation of Mr. Daybell's residence.
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I think significant or sufficient foundation has been laid.
All right,
Judge, I just make a record that I'm objecting also on the basis of relevance. It looks like it's a picture of a vehicle in the driveway.
okay. Well, the picture shows many things, including a vehicle. I'll allow the state to have this admitted, and sufficient foundation's been established, so 10B is admitted as well as the others.
Detective, if you will, or Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Detective, what did you observe in State's Exhibit 10B?
That is the west side of the Daybell residence. When I testified earlier to coming out and standing in the lawn area, that's not the vehicle that Mr. Daybell was in, but it was similarly parked that way back in. And that's the driveway he was sitting in when I was observing him look over his right shoulder toward the pond area.
Detective, do you have the pointer with you? Can you point to where you were standing when you initially observed Mr. Daybell's behavior?
I was standing here in this area.
And then you you said that you positioned yourself so that you could see what you thought he was looking at.
That's correct.
Where did you go then?
I stood more towards the driveway area. The vehicle that Mr. Daybell was in was up further this way. It wasn't backed in as far as this vehicle in the photograph.
And just to clarify, is that when you looked back and saw the activity under what became the first burial site?
Well, I was looking forward at that time. I was facing this direction. And I aligned myself with Mr. Daybell, who was up here more, and he was looking towards this area here.
Now, can you see the first burial site from where you're from that location?
Yes, it's the tree I spoke about earlier. This is the tree where JJ was buried underneath. This right here is the pond. You can see just a little bit more taller shrubs around the top of the pond area. But this is the tree that JJ was buried underneath.
So is it fair to say that even from the front or the middle of Mr. Daybell's front yard, you can see that location easily?
That's correct.
Detective, what did you observe in State's Exhibit C, 10C?
When I testified, I was tasked with sifting through the fire pit. This is what we deemed the fire pit. It had burnt tree limbs. There was various little pieces of trash. It was in the middle of round cinder blocks. So that's what we deemed the fire pit as.
And the way it appears in that image, that's the way you found it that day.
Correct. It was that morning, yes.
Thank you, Juror 11. I got it pinned to the top.
And what do you observe in State's Exhibit 10D?
This is just north of the driveway that Mr. Daybell was sitting in, looking in the same direction. So we're standing on the west side looking east. And that is the tree. And then here's the pond area right here.
Jacob, I'm going to put up State's Exhibit 10A again, and if you can point to the approximate location of where this picture was taken from.
So that last photograph was taken from this area right here.
And so it's fair to say from that location, you can easily see burial site number 1.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There's been some leading questions. Continues.
I'll sustain that last question, Steve.
Right. From that perspective, what were you able to observe?
Burial site number 1, JJ's burial site.
Was it difficult for you to observe it from that location?
The actual grave site on the ground, yes, from that location, but where the tree and the pond are, no, it wasn't difficult.
Detective, what did you observe in State's Exhibit 10E?
So I testified earlier about the difference in length of grass and shrubs in that 6x6 section that was marked off next to the pond. This is what I'm referring to. If you look close, you can see there's smaller grass and dirt protruding right here. This is probably a little bit difficult to see. There's probably a better photograph. But this is longer shrubs through here, and then in here was like the length of sod and some dirt where there was nothing growing.
And when yesterday you testified being called over to burial site 1, is that what it looked like when you got over there?
That's correct.
Detective, can you describe to the jury what you saw in State's Exhibit 10F?
So when I spoke about ERT removing the topsoil and the top level of shrubs, this is what I was speaking about. And you can start to see the three large white rocks I was talking about earlier starting to come through the dirt.
You testified yesterday about a smell. Was this the same time that you began to smell what you described yesterday?
Yes, as soon as they remove this and the topsoil, that's when I instantly can smell the smell of a decomposing body.
Detective, can you tell the jury what you saw in State's Exhibit 10? Or I'm sorry, 10G.
So as the ERT team methodically removed the soil around the white rocks and dug down just a little bit deeper, this is what we saw. You can start to see there was a smaller rock, but the three large white rocks started to show through clearly. When I testified that there was thin wood paneling underneath the white rocks, you can start to see the edge of that piece of wood paneling underneath the rocks. We also noticed that there were roots cut that the ERT team didn't cut. They were already pre-cut. Some of the roots are fairly thick, so that was something we observed as well in that burial site.
Detective, can you describe to the jury what you saw in State's Exhibit 10H?
After the ERT team removed the white rocks, this is the two pieces of wood paneling that were underneath.
What did you observe in State's Exhibit 10I?
I spoke earlier about the distinction in soil. Some of the soil looked wet or moist, some of it looked dry. Excuse me. What you're looking at here is once we remove the wood paneling, this is what was underneath, and you can start to see the distinction through here of the wet soil. And up here is just the dry soil. So the rocks and the paneling were all through here. So that was the other thing that we observed. And as we took the paneling off, the odor began to become a lot stronger. So we knew we were at the right spot.
Your Honor, I apologize for any delay. I wonder if we could just have a very brief sidebar regarding the removal. All right.
And this is what I mean, you guys, all these sidebars and all this, like I have never seen so many sidebars on one. This is their very first witness. And they must have had about 20 sidebars already. Like this looks so unprepared. And we've watched a lot of trials, you guys. Compare this one to Letitia Stout when we watched that trial. It seems every couple of questions, sidebar, 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 objection, sidebar, leading, objection, sidebar, sidebar. Oh, it looks like a shit show. This looks like one of my law classes that we had to do. And where you're stopped every so often because you're doing something wrong. Like we had to do mock trials and that. And that's exactly what this looks like. This looks like a kangaroo court. It's crazy. I have never seen this witness has been sitting on the stand since yesterday. We're still on direct. We haven't even got to cross-examination of this witness yet. We're still on direct. And we've got hardly next to no information that's come out so far. And about 20 sidebars and 150 objections because Rob Wood's not laying foundations. It's like every person who's thinking about getting into law or is in law school, watch this. And this is what you don't do. Okay? Okay, back to taxes for me. I had to put that in there, and it was easier just to say it to you guys instead of trying to type it. Play nice.
Mr. Wood, you can continue.
Thank you. Detective, can you explain to the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 10J?
So once we started removing the wet soil, and I testified earlier to a black round object protruding through the dirt, this is what we started to see. It appeared to be like tight wrapped black plastic. It wasn't very too far underneath. It's fairly shallow, but that's what we started to see. And I talked about what appeared to be the crown of the human head.
Can you describe what you saw in State's Exhibit 10K?
So once that appeared, ERT team leader Steve Daniels used a small, sharp instrument. And I testified that he made a slit through the black plastic. And you can see the black plastic kind of peeled away on the top of the head. And then I testified there was a white piece of plastic underneath. And this is the white piece of plastic here. He made a slit in the white plastic. And when he did that, you can see what appeared to be brown human hair. Some of the hair kind of came out with the sharp instrument. And that's the hair you can see on top of the white plastic. But that's what you're looking at there.
Can you tell the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 10L?
Once the ERT team continued excavating, they removed all the soil on top of this small body that was wrapped in completely black plastic. I testified that it appeared to take the shape of a small body in black plastic. And this is what we saw here. It's probably a 4x2 grave, and I'm guessing at those measurements. But it started to take the shape of a small body, and then it had different pieces of duct tape throughout the black plastic on top.
What did you observe in State's Exhibit 10M?
Once we lifted JJ out of the ground, there was still wet soil underneath where he was laying. And that's body decomposition. The body had begun to break down. So that's what the wet soil is through here. Again, you can see the roots that were cut to be able to put him in this location.
Detective, once that body was recovered, what did you do? And to clarify that question, once that body was taken out of the ground, what did you do?
I assisted the coroner and a few other officers in placing JJ in a body bag, a black body bag. The coroner locked the body bag for evidence. We then put it in the back of the coroner's vehicle. The coroner and a Fremont County deputy drove the vehicle up to the morgue, and myself and Lieutenant Rockwell followed behind that vehicle. Once we were at the morgue, JJ was placed in the morgue, and then we returned back to the Daybell residence.
Do you recall who the Fremont County coroner was?
Brenda died.
And do you recall what other officers traveled with you to the hospital?
In my vehicle was just Lieutenant Ron Ball. With the coroner, Brenda Dye, I believe it was Detective Kaiman.
And just for clarification, you have said this already, I apologize, but what hospital did you take him to?
Madison Memorial Hospital
And where is that located?
in the city of Rexburg.
Once you finished that task, what was the next step for your investigation?
We returned back to the Daybell residence. As we got there, we were told that they had possibly
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There's some hearsay.
I'll ask another question. Without telling the jury what anyone told you, what did you do when you got back to the residence?
we assisted in a second burial site.
And when you got back to the residence, did you observe another burial site being looked at?
I did.
Where was that located?
So through the course of our investigation, we learned that the Daybell family had deemed a section of the backyard as what they referred to as a pet cemetery. And we knew through talking to family members that the pet cemetery had a little black dog statue next to a post that kind of signified where the pet cemetery was. And so when I returned back from dropping JJ off at the morgue, I observed ERT digging in the pet cemetery area.
And did you aid in that excavation?
I did.
What did you personally do?
ERT began taking off top layers of soil in this specific area in the pet cemetery. Once they began to again see wet soil start to protrude through the dry soil, they slowed down and we got on our hands and knees and began excavating that by hand.
And by hand, did you use tools to do that?
We did. They had small tools that we could use, trowels, like paintbrushes, things of that nature.
Approximately what time of day was this?
Say it was afternoon.
And approximately how many people were there with you using hand tools?
There was only a few of us at a time that could work because of the area, but also because of the smell. We had to take turns digging because we were on our hands and knees and the smell was so bad that you could only work for a few minutes before somebody else had to take turns, get on their hands and knees and start digging by hand.
And you said the smell, what did it smell like?
Decomposing body.
How long did you aid in that excavation using the hand tools?
Hours, probably.
And did you find anything?
We did. We ended up digging down and started to uncover burnt pieces of flesh, charred bone, fatty tissue. Just, and I apologize for the lack of better words, but globs of burnt flesh starting to protrude through the dirt.
And once you found that, how long did you keep working that site that day?
We worked probably until probably 4-ish in the afternoon.
And you mentioned ERT, were they working there alongside you?
They were, there was also other areas being excavated as well, the fire pit still. So everybody was kind of tasked with something different at that point. And once we started getting down a little bit more in Tylee's burial site, we assumed it was Tylee, we could start to see the top of what appeared to be something plastic and green. And at that point, the ERT team leader, Steve Daniels, decided we were done for the evening.
When you were done for the evening, what happened?
We had Fremont County Sheriff's Office, the Madison County Fire Department, bring in 2 large light trucks to illuminate the crime scene. The crime scene was taped off. We had officers from Rexburg City Police, deputies from Fremont County Sheriff's Office that remained on scene all night long, walking the perimeter to make sure that the scene wasn't compromised and it was well illuminated.
And did you return the next day?
Yes, we did.
And when you returned the next day, who else returned?
Everybody that was there the previous day.
So ERT came back
That's correct, yes.
and other members of the FBI,
Yes,
Fremont County officers,
yes.
Rexburg police officers.
Correct.
And I believe you testified earlier that there were some Attorney General investigators there as well.
Yes,
And they were all there that second day.
that's correct.
Approximately what time did you arrive that second day?
We started fairly early. It was approximately 7 in the morning.
And what did you start doing when you got there on the second day?
I went back to Tylee's burial site. We had put up canopies to keep sunlight and wind. There was media, helicopters flying overhead, so we wanted to keep the scene from being compromised as much as we possibly could. And at that point, we got back down on our hands and knees and began digging again with those same little tools to get down to see what exactly we were going to take out of the ground at that point.
And so and then what happened next? Did you continue to do that work?
Like I said, we would take turns digging because the smell was so bad. And we would just keep excavating slowly around this green object that started to come through the dirt the first day. So it started to take a shape, a roundish shape, when we began digging down and methodically removing dirt. And at that point, we could start to see what appeared to be the shape of a green melted bucket that appeared to have the remains of, we assume, were Tylee that were charred and burned inside it.
And were you there for the excavation of that bucket?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Once we got down to what we thought was the bottom of the disformed bucket, we observed part of a human skull underneath the bucket. There was some teeth that we ended up excavating from underneath. At that point, the goal was to lift that out of the ground. And so there was we made kind of a little hole around it to try to get underneath. So we put tarps out. Like I said, the goal was to try to lift it completely out without manipulating it in any way. But when we tried to do that, when we lifted it, it all broke apart because there was nothing holding it together. So at that point, we had to go back in and remove all the pieces of the charred flesh and burnt bone and organs and pieces of Tylee that put onto the tarp.
And while you were doing that, you talked about the smell. Is that still present?
Yes, very much so. Strong odor, yes.
Were you able to observe the lack of a better word, total removal of that green bucket and its contents from that excavation site?
We were able to lift everything out at that point. We put it on the blue tarp. There were photographs taken, measurements taken by ERT. Once that was completed, we dug down even further to make sure we didn't miss anything. Once we figured out everything was out of the ground, that tarp and those and Tylee's remains were then put into a body bag. In the corner again, lock the body bag for evidence purposes. And Tylee was also transported to the morgue.
And did you follow along when Tylee was transferred to the morgue like you did with JJ?
We did. We followed in the same manner. Myself and Lieutenant Ball. Once Tylee was placed in the morgue, we returned back to the Daybell residence.
Your Honor, I'm going to be asked that the witness be handed states exhibits 11A through 11G.
And Judge, for the record, I've previously reviewed these and I would object to admission of these as exhibits.
All right, exhibits 11A through 11G are admitted without objection. This time, as we get into this evidence, I'm gonna announce that because of the graphic nature of some of this evidence, I'm not going to be showing this on the court's live stream, nor to the general public in the courtroom. The jurors will be viewing the evidence as well as the parties are permitted to see that. In addition, the court will provide an opportunity for any victims that wish to see the evidence in a private setting to view it as it's now been admitted into the record. But we made arrangements to not display this to the general public. And so, Mr. Wood, with these exhibits, that's how we'll proceed. And we will not include that on the live stream, but you can discuss it on the record in open public with the witness.
Detective, can you review that exhibit, those exhibits? And Your Honor, I understand these are already admitted. I am still ask a few foundational questions just to establish knowledge.
Very well.
For the record. Detective, what do those, what does states exhibit 11 report to be? And its subparts?
Photograph of Pet Cemetery and photographs of Tylee as we took her out of the ground in her burial site.
And were these photographs taken on June 9 and 10?
That's correct, yes.
And were you on the scene that day when those photographs were taken?
Yes,
Are they true and accurate representations of what you saw?
yes,
Your Honor, those exhibits having been admitted, I'd ask to publish.
Images of
Detective, before I publish that, I'm going to place State's Exhibit 10A up again. And can you point to the general location of what you've described as the pet cemetery?
right here.
So can you have on the record and explain where it's pointing?
Yes, yeah, Detective, will you explain where you're pointing?
It's just east of this shop area and just north of the fire pit. So it's right through here.
And Your Honor, I do think that the state's first picture under State's Exhibit 11 is okay for public consumption.
It is. I just wanted to make sure our system was working as well, but exhibit 11A is fine.
Detective, what did you observe in State's Exhibit 11A?
This is where we began excavating briefly As you can see in this photograph, there's a small black dog statue next to the post. So that's where we had learned this was the pet cemetery area through talking to family members. And then there's just some tarps laid out for some of the soil. You can see in the back the markers that had been distinguished and laid out by ERT for the fire pit area that I had talked about earlier.
And Your Honor, I think at this point it's appropriate to turn to public access.
I agree.
Detective, Your Honor, I'm at a bit of a, I have no idea if this is, I can't see if this. Well, I'll ask, Detective, can you see that image in your monitor?
Yes,
Can you see most of it?
yes.
Can you describe for the jury what's been marked as State's Exhibit 11B? What did you observe there?
Can I see? Is there a way I can use the pointer?
I have a suggestion also, Mr. Wood, just because I understand what you're doing to try to line that up since you can't see the monitor. Do you want to set a notepad or something on there, and get it oriented, and you could set on top of that just so that it's lined up?
And if I could have the screen for 1 moment, thank you, Your Honor, for that suggestion. Detective, what did you observe in State's Exhibit 11B?
It's hard to describe without the pointer, but I'll do my best. In the middle of that photograph, you can start to see the different color and the changes in the soil from dry to a wet, moist dirt. You can start to see to the left just a little bit of that area. You can see the white piece sticking out and it's burnt on top, and that's charred bone that's starting to stick out, and all the little pieces next to it are pieces of burnt flesh, tissue, where we later determined were organs that were all kind of, that's the top of what was inside the bucket. So that's what we first started to see when we started to excavate.
And at this point, were you still using the hand tools?
Yes.
Can you explain for the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 11C?
So as we started to excavate down further, some of the top of the mass of burnt flesh wasn't really attached to anything. And so when we would start to dig away towards the sides, it would kind of come apart. It wasn't part of that original mass. And so what you're looking at on this blue tarp is burnt flesh still attached to some bone. The upper left part of that that section that you're looking at is part of the hip bone, but it still has burnt flesh attached to it, and then dirt and just fatty burnt tissue.
You described to the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 11D.
So when I talked about it started to take a roundish shape, this is what I'm referring to. And we dug around the sides of it, trying to get to the bottom, because like I said, the goal was to get underneath, have 3 or 4 guys in there and just lift it onto the tarp. So that's what you're looking at in this photograph, is just the burnt flesh. It's still just kind of inside that.
And Judge, could we approach for a sidebar, please?
Yes.
And that's part of a human skull just to the right of that, the green bucket. There were teeth there in the dirt as well. But that's what you're looking at, just a close up of the bottom of it.
Detective, what can you explain for the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 11F?
So once we removed that mass and put it on the blue tarp, there was still some wet soil underneath. So we dug down even further to make sure that we had excavated everything we needed. And so what you're looking at, you can see the tarps in the background we had put up. You can see some of the hand tools that we used just to the right of that hole. But But that's what you're looking at, is just after we got that mass out, the wet soil.
Detective, what did you observe in States Exhibit 11G?
So these were part of Tylee that kind of broke apart when we tried to lift it out of the ground. There's pieces of charred bone, there's parts of a skull on the bottom left, covered in dirt, and they're still burnt, rotting flesh still attached to the bone. So that's what you're looking at that one. These were the pieces that broke off.
Detective, I believe you testified that you assisted in transferring those remains to Madison County to the hospital, correct?
Correct, I followed behind the corner.
Was Lieutenant Vallow with you again?
He was.
Once you got up to the hospital, what did you do?
We observed the Fremont County coroner bred to die, transfer Tylee's remains into the morgue. The morgue was unlocked, but there was evidence they put up. And at that point, myself and Lieutenant Ball went back to the defendant Daybell's residence.
And what did you do once you got back there?
We assisted and made sure there were no other burial sites or anything that the ERT team needed assistance with. At that point, we decided that we were going to take JJ and Tylee to the Ada County Coroner's Office to have an autopsy performed. So roughly 4 p.m. on June 10th, 2020, it was decided that we were going to follow the county coroner with the remains of JJ and Tylee to the Ada County Coroner's Office for an autopsy the next morning.
And when did you arrive in Ada County, approximately?
Approximately 8 or 9 in the evening on June 10th.
And what did you do once you got there?
We went directly to the coroner's office, and JJ and Tylee were dropped off, and the coroner's office took custody of both JJ and Tylee.
So that was later in the evening.
Correct.
And was an autopsy performed that night?
No.
When was the autopsy?
The autopsy,
Judge, I'm gonna object, there needs to be some accommodation.
Overruled, if you know, you can answer.
the autopsy was performed June 11th, early morning hours.
That was the next day.
Correct.
And were you present for that?
Yes, I was.
And where did that autopsy take place?
At the Ada County Coroner's Office.
So when you arrived at the coroner's office, what did you do first?
Initially, when we arrived, we had a little debrief with the medical examiner, Garth Warren. He told us what he expected.
Judge, objection.
Counsel,
Hearsay?
same.
You met with Dr. Ward.
Correct.
What was the purpose of that meeting?
To debrief us on what to expect that morning.
What did you do next?
We went to the room where the autopsy was performed. Put the sanitary booties on our shoes, signed in on a whiteboard with our name and cell phone numbers. So he had a record of everybody that was in the room. And at that point, we stood back against the wall and observed the autopsy.
Now, as a detective, you don't perform an autopsy, correct?
Correct.
But you were able to see it take place.
That's correct.
And what did you observe happening during that autopsy?
One of his team members brought out the body bag. And I recognized it to be the same body bag that we took from defendant Daybell's backyard that day because it still had dirt on it. It still had the same lock. And at that point, they opened the body bag and revealed the same black plastic and small body that appeared to be in the black plastic.
And then what did you observe?
Dr. Warren and his team cut down the middle of the black plastic to open up what was inside. At that time, I observed a small child with duct tape on his head from his chin to his forehead area, tightly wrapped around his head. He had red pajama pants on, red pajama shirt. He had his arms folded this way across his body. And there was duct tape from elbow all the way around to his other elbow. He had his ankles also bound with duct tape. He was still wearing his nighttime pull-up diaper. He had black socks with the word Skechers in orange. I could tell that he was going through various states of decomposition based on his skin color.
Judge, I'm gonna object.
Grounds.
He doesn't have the experience to make a determination about the levels of decomposition. He's speculating.
I'll sustain the objection and strike the final part of the answer about decomposition, Mr. Wilkie.
Right. Detective, what did the body's skin look like?
The skin was sloughing. It appeared to be bluish green, black, yellow. And through my training experience, going through and handling different dead bodies at different stages of decomposition, that's what I read.
Judge, I'm gonna object again. There's been no foundation for him to make that sort of medical assessment. He's not a medical doctor.
Your Honor, my argument would be that's not a medical assessment. It makes it on his training experience.
I'll overrule the objection. If you'd like to cross further, you'll have a chance, Mr. Pryor. The objection is overruled. Foundation laid in the previous response.
Detective, once this, the body was taken out of the bag and you made the observations that you've just described, what happened next?
Dr. Warren and his team then cut the white plastic that was wrapped around his head and duct tape. They cut down the middle to reveal what was underneath. And at that point, I observed another piece of duct tape stretched from JJ's jawline to jawline over his mouth. He also cut the several layers of duct tape from his arms, and it revealed some more duct tape that had his wrist bound underneath all those layers of duct tape. He then took his bottom pajamas off and shirt And it also revealed the nighttime pull-up diaper he was still wearing.
Now, Detective, you spoke about the duct tape and bag over the head, correct?
Correct.
And you've been referring to this as JJ.
Yes.
Until that duct tape and bag were removed, though, were you able to identify him as JJ?
No, once they removed the duct tape in the bag, through looking at all the photographs for the last 8 months of JJ, I recognized him to be the same little boy laying on that table as JJ Vallow. He had the same hairstyle, shorter on the sides, longer on top. At that point, I recognized him as JJ.
Once the clothing was removed, what did you observe happen next?
Dr. Warren pointed out some bruising on his arms, on his ankles, on his chest. He also pointed out some scratch marks on the left side of his neck, just under the duct tape. At that point, Dr. Warren and his team performed the autopsy.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be shown on State's Exhibits 12A through 12B.
A through B.
E.
B, thank you.
Detective, can you review those exhibits for me when you've had a chance to?
Yeah.
Do you recognize State's Exhibits 12A through E?
Yes,
What do they purport to be?
JJ Vallow laying on the table after they opened the black plastic.
And were you present when those pictures were taken?
Yes,
You were in the same room.
Correct.
Are those true and accurate representations of what you observed that day?
yes,
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibits 12A through E entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Very well. 12A through E are admitted. All of these are graphic in nature, will not be published or shown on the court's live feed or published in the courtroom. They'll be published to the jurors, however you wish to split.
Thank you. Detective, can you describe to the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 12A?
once they removed the black plastic that JJ Vallow was in, this is the first thing you saw. You can see on the white plastic on top of his head, that's the slit that was made when his head was sticking out of the ground. And you can see the duct tape I testified to wrapped around his entire face. His red pajamas are still soaked with body decomposition. The level of duct tape on his arms is what really caught my attention. And he still has he has a white and blue child blanket wrapped around him.
You describe to the jury what you observed in State's Exhibit 12B.
This is the JJ's legs, his bottom half, he has his red pajama pants on still. His ankles, like I testified, are wrapped with duct tape. Those are his black Skechers socks that he had on. It's hard to see there too, but his legs and body are also soaked with decompositions.
You describe to the jury what you saw in State's Exhibit 12C.
When I spoke earlier that Dr. Warren cut down the white plastic and the duct tape that was covering his head, this is what we saw. You can see the other layer of duct tape around his mouth that went from jawline to jawline. You can see his hair, brown hair still was matted down to his head. Wet, soaked with body decomposition. But at that point, I was able to still recognize him as JJ Vallow.
You observed in 12D.
That's the white bag that was covering his head. That looks like blood in the bag. It's actually body decomposition, just breaking down. It appeared to be a normal trash bag. It had a red drawstring. And you can see, if you look close at the waffle style pattern, the expandable type trash bag. There's still pieces of duct tape that are attached. That's what that photograph depicts.
You describe to the jury what you saw in 12B.
That's just another photo of JJ. The tape is starting to lose its stickiness because of the way the body is. It's just a different photo or a different angle of JJ's face.
So can I have a recite, Art Council? Bit earlier than normal, but we are going to take a mid-morning recess at this time. We'll reconvene here about slightly before 10:30 to get started with additional testimony.
All rise, please.
Gentlemen, if you are not part of the court staff, please enter the courtroom.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna stop, you guys. Like I said, there's just not enough interest in it. It's very hard to hear. Like I can barely hear. I've got my earbuds in. I can barely hear anything. So, I mean, I just don't think it's feasible to continue every day with this. Like me getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get things set up and get them ready and sit here, and there's just not enough interest in the case. So I will be yeah, audio sucks on their end. And that's what happens now. If it would have been court TV or law and crime or something in there doing the audio and video, this would have been so much better. Even the stuff that we are allowed to see, like I would have liked to see the setup of that property in the back when um for Alex's phone pings and stuff like that. Like we can't make an honest judgment for ourselves without seeing where those pings are and everything. You can't see nothing on that screen. So I mean, I tried. I just don't think the quality is there to be able to continue. Like we can barely even hear it. So I did try. So I want to thank each and every one of you that have come and watched this far and hung out and hung in as long as you did. I appreciate you. I appreciate my mod. You guys came up and were here. We were ready for this. Yes, I'll miss hanging out with you guys. That's the biggest thing for me. I'll miss hanging out with you guys. But I think that there's other things that we could be covering. I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow covering all the stuff that's been going on with the Sebastian Rogers. We're going to have some discussion on that. And we'll see. We'll see what goes on. We'll see what we're going to cover next. But I just don't think that it's feasible. Thank you, sister. I appreciate you. Oh, thank you. I tried. I tried so hard, you guys. And like I said, like I can't even, I love you too, Shy. I can barely even hear it. So what I had to do was I had to take my earbuds even out and connect my stereo system to it and crank it. Next time, don't be so rowdy. yeah, with the Letitia Stout case, like we were full in here. We had a couple thousand in here every day watching it. So it's new items found. Yes. We're going to go all over that, Mom Osser, tomorrow. We can discuss it. We'll do that tomorrow afternoon. Okay. So thank you guys for hanging in, hanging out, and hanging on as long as you did. It's just sad that, you know, Court TV, they could have allowed in there to do this and to cover it. And like I said, without being able to see where they've got the markings, where did Chad's phone ping? Where did Alex's phone ping? You can't see any of the photos of any of that. GPS tracking, phone ping tracking. We won't be able to see any of it. You know what I mean? So unless you're right there in the courtroom, I don't think that you can get an objective view. You know what I mean? And really make up your mind as to what's actually being shown. Like whoever's on the witness stand isn't even getting up and pointing at the screen. You know what I mean? They're pointing at it using their mouse on the laptop in front of them. And we can't even see that little pointer on the big screen. Like they're way too far back. All you see is a blue blob. You know what I mean? So I just don't think it's feasible to continue. It's a lot of time put aside, and a lot of everybody's life being put on hold, and we're not really getting what we should. So with that being said, I'm going to end it like I always do. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. Always be aware of your surrounding. I love you guys to the moon and back. Thanks for sticking it out this long. Bye-bye for now.